So I want to make a video about practical holiness. Why does my hat look like that? I don't know what's going on there. Looking all whopper-jawed. But I was praying, and I feel like I just wanted to share this because this may help people. That for Christians, following and walking in godliness and walking in a way that pleases God and honors Him for the work that He's done in our hearts. Hopefully I'm not going to lose this thought. It is really freeing. It's really restoring back what you're meant to be. What God created in His intentional design for human beings was to have a heart that was fixated upon Him, who did everything they did to the glory of Him as a vehicle of worship, as an extension of worship, working and subduing what God has created, and being agents of that work. But in regards to our hearts, those activities were meant to draw us closer to Him. They were meant to commune with Him, have fellowship with Him in that task. And through sin and through the fall, those tasks, whether we uptake them or we don't, and if we do, or if we uptake them, sin lies close at hand and is kind of sin is robbing us of the worship due to the Lord, that expressing itself as I'm going to work for more money and to have status, instead of working as a vehicle to glorify and make much of God and to be in fellowship with Him. And so it seems like one aspect of holiness for the Christian is being freed from yourself, is being freed from the sin within you that is trying to is not allowing you to experience humility. It's not allowing you to experience selflessness. It's not allowing you to experience contentedness, because because sin leaves things in captivity. It's sin enslaves, sin leaves in bondage. But Jesus came, obviously in John 8, as the truth that will set us free from sin's hold on us. And as we are walking out practical holiness, we're being restored into the image and the likeness of God, being made more into the image of Christ. And so, the opposite of pursuing holiness as a Christian is kind of backsliding, is going back to slavery. Paul kind of talks about that in Galatians, not to return back to slavery or a yoke of slavery. We're called to persist in the new life that Christ has caused in our hearts, and walking in more and more holiness. One aspect, like I said, is walking by the fruits of the Spirit, and where there is no law, there is freedom. And we're freed from pride. We're freed from lust. We're freed from selfishness, because the Spirit of God dwells in us, producing those fruits that are actually counteracting and that are pushing back on what we are under Adam as a fallen creature, who has no choice but to and desires from his own will to engage in lawlessness. And he's a slave to sin, as Paul says in Romans 6. He can't please God in his flesh. He can't submit to God's law. But in Christ, we're set free from the bondage of sin and the consequence for our sinning against God. And The life we now live, we live by faith in the Son of God who loved us and gave himself for us. And we can actually walk in true holiness. We can actually put away our pride. We can actually put away and put to death every day our lusts or impurities, and turn to Christ and be free and be a real human being made in God's image, a real human that's not enslaved. Being a real human, being like Adam and Eve before the fall. And so that's a very practical application of holiness. It's not meant to keep you enslaved. People think it's just a bunch of rules, but actually those rules are producing life. Those rules God has caused to exist in our hearts, that we actually delight in them, and that's a freeing thing. So be free.